This is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network. Today I want to talk to you guys about freedom cells. Now, if you've paid attention to my work for the last year or so, you've probably heard me mention freedom cells in interviews or in my talks about agorism and counter-economics. And today I want to focus specifically on the concept and give you guys a better understanding of what I mean when I discuss freedom cells and how I believe it can be a useful tool for activism, for organizing, and for getting yourself to a more free place and to moving out of the matrix of statism and towards the agoras, the free world that we know is all possible. So a freedom cell in its simplest way can be described as a voluntary association, a network of 8 people plus or minus 1 or 2 people, so 5, 6 to 8 to 9 people, but ideally at 8 people who are coming together for a specific purpose of organizing and to accomplish goals. Some people might know freedom cells as a similar term, affinity group, which is also a group formed around a shared concern or a specific goal. But I do believe the concept of freedom cells is more unique towards getting off the grid and towards building community, where an affinity group can be any individuals getting together for a shared purpose, regardless of what that purpose is. But I think freedom cell, when you take that concept, a cell of people, a network of people, freedom, and we extrapolate from there, we can see the direction that we're headed. I've also talked about this in the past with an interview I did with James Corbett called Counter Economics. This is what a real revolution looks like, and I'll post that in the links below the video. And I also talked about this with John Bush, who's an activist out of Austin, Texas. John is actually the one who came up with the term freedom cells and who shared it with me. There's 2 interviews of us talking about that I will put in the links below as well. And I advise you to check that out if you want to hear more about how John came into the concept. And John actually learned from another guy named Bob Podolsky, who some of you may know. He's the author of this book, Flourish, An Alternative to Government and Other Hierarchies, which I definitely recommend, Robert Podolsky. And I'll post some links to that below the video as well. And Bob, in his book, he worked with another man named John David Garcia, and essentially their research showed over time that human beings operate best in groups of 8 people. He said 7 or 9, but any lower than that, any higher than that, it starts to fall off their effectiveness. And so Bob took on these ideas, and he calls them an octologue of 8 people. And he suggested it being 4 men and 4 women, and his book goes further into his reasonings for that and this structure that he described, which would be, individual octologues or freedom cells, doing awesome on their own, teaching themselves skills and growing and organizing, and then connecting to other freedom cells and forming these larger networks. So you'd have, one freedom cell, say in Houston, and another freedom cell maybe in Austin, and they interlock for certain things. Or maybe just on one side of Houston, you have this freedom cell in Southwest Houston, this freedom cell in Northwest Houston, and occasionally they work together and they form a bigger group. So the purpose is trying to find an effective way to organize with other human beings, other free minds, to take on the tasks that are necessary to create the free world and to find ourselves exiting from this statist control paradigm. So some of the goals that I have for using freedom cells are for community organizing, for prepping, just for strategy, for land projects, for creating these free agoras. And one of the ways that we've started to build this in Houston, for instance, the freedom cells within our group of, so far we have about 5 to 6 people working towards 8 people that we know we can count on to meet on a monthly basis at the least, if not every other week, and every week whenever possible, if that becomes possible, to keep ourselves on track with these goals. So we are making sure that everybody within our group has an encrypted form of communication. Everybody within our group has 3 months supply of backup food. Everyone within the group has a emergency bag, a bug out bag. Everyone is proficient in CPR. Different things like that. So finding ways to get another group of people, a core group of people that you can count on, that are equally as prepared for you in any emergency, whatever that may be, and they're also knowledgeable, educated about sustainability and taking care of themselves. And the benefit to this as well is that you take this group and say, you don't only have to say, hey, we're going to all get backup food, we're all going to learn encryption. You can say, everybody in this group, let's learn about aquaponics this week, for example. and everybody goes and you take this specific angle, you take this specific angle, then we meet next week and we all teach each other everything we learned about that specific topic. So it makes it easier to just crowdsource a large amount of knowledge and share that with your core group of people as we build each other up. So that's empowerment there as well. And some of the benefits to using this structure is non-hierarchical. The power and the knowledge is diffused. So again, if everybody knows how to do CPR, if everybody's teaching each other the same skills and learning the same skills, obviously some people are going to have more knowledge than others, and some people will be better at certain things than others, and that's fine. We're not trying to work against that. But the benefit of having everyone on the same page is that knowledge and that power is diffused. So if the shit hits the fan, you know that you're not the only one that's got backup supply of food. Everybody else in the group is equally prepared, so y'all can count on each other. And maybe instead of having just one person that knows how to do CPR, one person who knows how to build a fire or cook or whatever you have, everybody knows how to do that. So you're not dependent on one person. If they die, if they get sick, if they leave, whatever may happen, the group can continue and can stay just as strong. You can do this using unanimous decisions. I think this is the best way to go through this. There's no majority rule within this 8-person freedom cell. Regular communication between the groups, nonviolent communication, I think is going to be really important in forming these groups. And of course, they are all voluntary. Everybody's there because they choose to be. Now, as far as what about projects that involve more than 8 people, how do you handle that? This goes back to the idea, again, of interlocking cells, what John Bush called your inner cadre and your outer cadre. So, we have our first freedom cell, right? We start building each other up and educating each other and sharing these skills. And then each person in that turns to their immediate community, maybe directly in their neighborhood or wherever they are, and they start another freedom cell. So then you've got now, instead of just one group of 8 to 10 people, you've got 8 to 10 groups of 8 to 10 people, close to 80 to 100 people there. And then each of those groups can start their own, and, you end up with this really beautiful image of independent, powerful, autonomous, and free individuals voluntarily coming together with 7 other people to form freedom cells, educating, empowering each other, using it to, for, say you take on a community garden project, let's 8 attack this and see what we can do. Let's take this topic and educate each other about it. Let's make sure we're all prepared for any type of situation. So you have that powerful group interlocking with other powerful groups, and slowly I believe this is the process that we will take to build the free world, using also agorism and counter-economics, which if you're new to those topics, I'll put those below as well. This is how I believe that freedom cells are the structure, at least one structure within the agorist strategy to use counter-economics. Because as you form your freedom cell, you can start to find ways, okay, how can the group of us find ways to make money in the black and gray markets outside of the statist economy? That is what's most exciting to me about the possibilities of this. I, of course, have drawn up my own ideas on how freedom cells could be applied for my specific freedom cell here in Houston. Of course, I am just one individual in this, so even the ideas I'm about to share with you are just my ideas as one individual. I'm not speaking for the whole freedom cell because that's impossible. It's made up of other autonomous individuals, and together we decide what we want to focus on, and I believe our direction we're going for is taking this freedom cell structure and applying it to land and beginning to homestead and to build free communities using this theme. And in our freedom cell, some of the ideas that people have talked about are sustainability, skill shares, mutual benefit, farming, freedom, networking, small-term commitments, community building, non-aggression principle, independence. We want to teach each other skills. We want to build community. We want to educate each other. We want to get land, mental and physical training within this group, so you have a group of empowered people. These are steps that I believe are important, and these are just, again, my ideas, my early ideas. These will be going into the 3rd book in the Conscious Resistance trilogy, which is untitled and will be released next year, as we show you how to build conscious agoras using ideas like freedom cells. I think it's important when you first start thinking about, can I start a freedom cell? For one, you want to identify potential candidates. People that you know who you can count on physically, mentally, etc., and who are at the point where they're tired of just talking about the problems and philosophizing about possible solutions and ready to actually start building them. You can discuss common themes, interests among those people once you identify those candidates and y'all start meeting together. Identify strengths, both individual strengths and weaknesses, as well as the group's strengths and weaknesses, and that'll be very helpful. You can set short-term and long-term goals for your freedom cell. I recommend something like nonviolent communication training, maybe group meditation, some way to have a connected group of people who regularly communicate and those lines of communication are open. begin accomplishing your goals, continue educating each other, regular communication, promote and market your goals and accomplishments to the wider world. And this is really important to remember, is as you're building using this structure, let the world know that, wow, I've discovered this new way to organize with other free humans, and it's bringing us abundance, it's bringing us joy and knowledge. Show people how this is helping your life improve. Identify strategies for creating income and independence, again, counter economic activity within the Freedom Cell itself. And those are my basic ideas for what the Freedom Cell is. As I've said, this is coming out of Flourish, Octalogs, then John Bush turned it into Freedom Cells. He inspired me with that, and we are trying to do something big with it in Houston and in Texas, and I think other people can take this idea, whatever you want to call it, affinity group, Freedom Cell, Octalog, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. What matters is that you're finding a way to organize with other like-minded, empowered, free individuals and start building the steps that are going to help us create the free world that I know that we are all after. So, if you want to know more about this, get in touch with me, we can talk about it, or just start doing it. Take the ideas that I've shared, look at the links below the video, listen, read those, and just start doing it. You are creating what Freedom Cells are. It's a brand new concept, so you get to decide what it is. Thank you guys for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and as always, you are beautiful, you are free. Peace.